Hello, my friends. Welcome to Lindy's Magpie Reads. This is a place where I talk about books and other things that are going on in my life. I have 6 books to tell you about today. But before I get to those, I want to tell you about my visit that's happening this week with my sister Simone, who's here in Victoria visiting from the Yukon, from her farm. She had a special request. She'd heard about a milk vending machine that's up the coast on Vancouver Island. It's near Parksville, and said, could we go there? I said, sure. And I had heard about a cheese vending machine as well. That's closer to Victoria, about 45 minutes north of here. And she said, yeah, let's go there too. So that's what we did. We spent a day touring farms, actually, and cheese vending and milk vending. So much excitement for the two of us farm girls. Well, Simone still has a farm. I grew up on a farm. So starting with the Cowichan Creamery. So this is where the cheese vending machine is. And it's so well set up. You can buy their farm-made cheese right there. It's also available in shops, but nice to get it directly from the farm. And we ended up having a little picnic later on when we stopped at the Little Qualicum farm. That their cheese is in a shop on the farm site, and they have a milk vending machine where you put your coins in, put your bottle up to the spout, and it dispenses milk. And the milk is delicious. We came home with so much milk. We made an Indian rice pudding, a kheer from it, and I made a cream sauce for pasta with kale, and there's still lots of milk to cook with. Oh, I put some in the freezer too. But the farm itself, Little Qualicum, it is set up for visitors of all ages. There's lots of great signage, and one of the really interesting things, I'd never heard of this before, they have a robot milker that is at will for the cows. So these dairy cows, instead of the standard being milked twice a day and having to wait in between milking, sometimes it's really uncomfortable for the cows when they're really full of milk. Whenever they want to be milked, they line up at the robot machine, and they're all wearing a collar so that they can tell if they've already been milked enough times that day, because each of the 60 cows can get milked 6 times a day, and they get a special treat when they go into the milking machine. But you can see they like it because they line up for it. They have other automated stuff too, like the hay that's on the outside. There's a little robot thing that's like a really tall vacuum cleaner that comes along and pushes it closer. Yeah, there's other really cool features as well. The cows are laying in thick sand. It seems pretty comfortable for them. There are little calves. We didn't hear any of them calling for their mother and mothers calling for them, so I'm not exactly sure how the farm balances that out, but the small calves that we saw seemed pretty happy with their situation. Anyway, all in all, it was a great day that we ended it with a stop in Duncan, where there's a totem pole walking route, a whole bunch of totem poles in Duncan with explanation panels at each of them, where the carver talks about his or her inspiration, and you can learn what the different elements of these totem poles are. I was learning to distinguish between thunderbirds and eagles, for example. There was even a Maori carved pole there. yeah, so all in all, a fantastic day. So I'm going to save some footage for the very end of this video. So if you want to see more about what's blooming in Victoria, hang on for that. I might pop in some other things there as well. So 2 reading events that I am participating in on booktube this month are People April, which is reading books that are true stories about people, biography or memoir, and also Picture This, which is a picture book reading for adults, to encourage adults to read picture books. The hosts for People April are Elizabeth of Bookhans Books, Roz of Skelly Dandling about the books, and Brian of Bookish. More information will be in the description box. And for Picture This, the hosts are Jack of Spread Book Joy and Shelley Swearingen. Again, information, you know where to look. I'm going to start with this picture book by the African-American author Alice Walker. It's called Sweet People Are Everywhere. Always a good reminder. The artist, the illustrator, is Catalan, lives in Barcelona, and his name is Quim Torres. So the story's pretty simple. Basically telling you, like countries around the world, there are sweet people. There's Mexico, Sudan, and South Africa. I particularly paid attention to Japan because there's a sakura tree, and sakura is everywhere in Victoria right now, the cherry blossoms. And I also like the way the illustrator used bicycles for Korea, China, and Japan. And then there's this spread. Sweet people in Israel and also in Palestine. You can see that it is 2 groups of youth who are going to be playing soccer together. And Palestine is going to come up later on in this video. But I want to mention some statistics that UNICEF published in January of this year. Over 14,500 Palestinian children have been killed since the start of the war in Gaza. 25,000 children have been injured and 17,000 children orphaned. There's a author interview with Alice Walker at the back of the book, and she talks about her activism and her concerns about children who are being harmed around the world, which is why I was thinking those statistics are relevant. Plus, another book that I'm going to be talking about later on in this video, which is about the war in Gaza. So the impetus for the poem in this book is a young person that Alice Walker met who got his first passport, and he was a musician heading off to China. So a good reminder that no matter where you go, people are the same. Lots of great people. This next picture book, Just What to Do, is by Kyle Lukoff, who is an American trans man, and the illustrations are by Hala Taboub, who's a Canadian, lives in Montreal. This one has such a great message in it. The child, it's never clear whether this child is male, female, or non-binary, has different situations where somebody close to them has had a loss. So starting with a cactus, And so they make a sorry for your loss card. But it turns out that their brother actually just wanted to hear some jokes, make me laugh. So when another person has a loss, the goldfish dies, they immediately go to the library for a joke book and are ready to tell a joke, but their friend says, actually what I want is a hug. And so when their teacher experiences the loss of a hamster in their class, they give the teacher a hug. And the teacher says, thanks for the hug, but I could use some help passing out snack. And so when the babysitter's dog dies, they prepare a little snack for consolation. And the babysitter says, would you mind just looking at photos? That's what I would like for you to do. And then a friend's grandmother dies, and they say, I don't know. What do you want? Some people like a hug, some people like a card. What do you want? And their friend doesn't know, so they figure it out together. I love the use of white space here, where there's just so much distance between you and other people when you don't know what to do, or when you're feeling grief, but together. Make some flowers. Such a good way to talk to children about how to support someone who's grieving. I recommend this very highly. Next up, I have an Australian novel that I have been meaning to get to, I think since before it was on the Booker list, Yard Devotional by Charlotte Wood. I have read a couple of her books previously, The Natural Way of Things and The Weekend. I recommend both of those. And since for some people, Aussie April is a thing, that it's very serendipitous that this is when my hold for Yard Devotional came in. My subscriber, Jacqueline McMenamin, mentioned that she still does Aussie April. I don't know if there are booktubers that are hosting it. If you know of some, please let me know in the comments. I guess it's always a good time to read authors from Australia. So this novel is about a woman who moves from the city for reasons and starts living in a religious convent. So she doesn't become a nun. She's not particularly religious, actually, but the peace and quiet of living there is something that soothed her soul, and she's looking back on her life throughout the course of this novel. So not a lot happens, but it's a very reflective, quiet, ruminative kind of story. She's talking about guilt and shame as well as grief in, I don't know, really comforting way, I guess, because there's examples of how all things return to the earth. And I guess there's something very grounding about that. There's also lots of examples of the many ways we have of leaving the earth. There's suicide, there's murder, natural death. There's also the death of mice. There's a plague of mice happening. So if you have a phobia about rodents, you'll be forewarned. The death of a chicken who's being killed to be eaten is also described in here. Deaths, all kinds. And in spite of that, or just the way that it's presented, is just so beautifully done, and I really enjoyed this book very much. Next is a book for People April. May It Have a Happy Ending, subtitled A Memoir of Finding My Voice as My Mother Lost Hers. It's by Minelle Mahtani. She's Canadian. Her mother was Iranian Muslim, and her father was Indian and Hindu. So growing up in Canada with a bicultural or tricultural, I guess, counting Canadian, and she wrote this memoir in short little scenes that she calls stories, and they very much flip around in time. So part of it is during the time that her mother was dying of tongue cancer, and part of it is how when she got a job on a radio station in Vancouver, she had a show called A Sense of Place. She was entirely new to radio, so she had a lot to learn about interviewing, but her goal was to uplift voices that we don't normally hear from, and how she learned to both really bring herself and her passions to air, as well as draw out the stories of the people who were her guests on the show. And all of these pink flags that are in here have tips about interviewing, and I am taking these to heart because I'm going to be embarking on a project that will involve interviewing people, authors. So I'm learning from Minelle in that way. She also talks a lot about her OCD and her frankness with symptoms. I think could be really helpful for people. She talks about grief. She talks about joy. There are great quotes from other authors. I flagged almost all of those passages too. I guess when you interview a lot of authors, you come in contact with a lot of other great voices. So there were a lot of things that really worked for me in this book. Although I have to say, when she and her brother convinced their mother to try some alternative cancer treatment in Berlin, and it just made me cringe and feel so sad about their desperation, the amount of money that they would spend on treatment that was pretty obvious was a scam. So yeah, there were some things that were hard to read in here for sure. And then I picked up a series, a volume of Galaxy of Madness, and it's got a number of creators. So the author is a trans woman, American trans woman, Magdalene Visaggio. The art is by another American, Michael Avon Oeming, and the colors are by Japanese American Taki Soma, with lettering by Morgan Martinez. So that's the team. They did a fun job, and surprisingly, it had ties to the other books that I read. So particularly Yard Devotional, because one of the characters in this scenario, which is I think set in the 44th century or 40th or 44th century, I can't remember exactly, way in the future anyway. And it's a crew of archaeologists, and they include this woman Krios, who had been in a religious order, the cloister of the Supala women, and she knows martial arts. She's able to connect with all living and I think non-living things around her. So Yeah, very much a nun type. The young woman who's at the core of the story, her name is Vigil Virgo. Krios asks her, "Do you know why I left the order?" And Vigil says, "Yeah, you lit the prioress on fire." And Krios says, "That's how I left, not why." So there's more to that story. And the main puzzle at the core of this storyline has to do with Vigil's parents, who have disappeared. And so from the age of 10, Vigil has had a foster father, Odysseus Rex, who kind of looks like, that character from Star Trek with wearing the thing over his eyes. Lots of fun, lots of adventures on different planets as they're trying to sort out a kind of puzzle. They get these different puzzle pieces, and this series will be continuing, and I am going to be looking for new episodes as they show up. I found this in Hoopla, my library's Hoopla collection, by the way. Last up, the best book of the bunch. This one I loved so much. One Day, Everyone Will Have Always Been Against This, by Omar El Akkad. So, another book for people April. Omar was born in Egypt. He grew up in Qatar, and then when he was a teenager, he moved with his family to Canada, and now he lives in the US. So about 3 weeks after the bombardment started in Gaza, he tweeted, "One day, when it's safe, when there's no personal downside to calling a thing what it is, when it's too late to hold anyone accountable, everyone will have always been against this." And apparently that tweet has been viewed more than 10 million times. This is Omar's debut nonfiction. His novels have won so much acclaim and awards. They are American War and Strange Paradise. I highly recommend both of them. And this one, I listened to the audio, the author reads it, and I also followed along in the book. It is such a cry from the heart, and that's all I'm going to say about it. Do pick it up. You won't be sorry. And that is all I've got to tell you about today, so I want to thank you so much for watching. Please do say hello in the comments down below. I always love to hear from you. Let me know if you plan to pick up any of these. Are you participating in Picture This or People April or both? Let me know that too. Stick around for some images of things that are blooming here in Victoria, and happy reading, everybody. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.